Hey everyone, it's Jack here, TalkNorwichCity. Welcome back to another video. I think we can all agree that the summer transfer window for Norwich City was a successful one. It was certainly one of the busiest in recent seasons. It was a period in time for Norwich where we had to rebuild the squad. It was a new head coach in Liam Manning coming in and trying to get his own system, his own style in place. And we were also coming to the end of some players that had been here a long time. Onel Hernandez, Angus Gunn, Jakob Sorensen. The list goes on. So not only did we have to bring in, we had to shift some players as well. But in this video, we're going to try and rank all of the 12 senior summer signings that came in over the summer. Yes, there were 12. So grab yourself a Lakens or a cup of tea and let's try and get through all of these. Jacob Wright was the first summer signing ages ago. It felt like it was a year ago that we signed Jacob Wright. He was obviously on loan. We brought him in on loan originally. We then made it permanent in the summer. 19 years old, £2.3 million signing, coming in from Manchester City. Now, I'm going to rank, one being the absolute worst signing. Why did we do it? Complete mistake. All the way to 10. Unbelievable bit of business. The perfect signing. Obviously, we are basing these off of a month of football, not even a month. But I'm going to be factoring in how I think it will go. A little bit of hindsight in there as well, potentially. Jacob Wright, I think it was a cracking signing. I don't think it's been the ideal start for him. It was disappointing that the sending off against Middlesbrough. It felt like in that game he was trying to chase his tail a little bit. There was a couple of heavy touches early on. He was trying to get into the game. Mistimed touch. Poorly timed tackle. Sent off. Nunez is obviously gone, which makes, I think, his job getting into the team slightly easier. I think Liam Manning loves Mirko Topic, and we'll get on to him. He also clearly loves Kenny McLean. You've got Liam Gibbs in there. I think with Jacob Wright, he is going to be an important player this season. I think we can't forget just how young he is. But I think there's a good player in here, and I like the profile. I like his tenacity, his ability, and his kind of willingness to improve and learn. He has said that he wants to be the future Norwich City captain on the TNC podcast. I think Ben Napper has said that he sees him as a future Norwich City captain. I'm going to rank this a 7 out of 10. I think that's a good bit of business from Norwich, fairly cheap. I think Jacob Wright will go on to be a really, really exciting player. Give him a couple of seasons. It might even come sooner than that. We'll rattle through a couple of these. We've got Dan Grimshaw, who, 27 years old, second choice goalkeeper, basically replaces George Long. The way I'm seeing this, he's an upgrade on George Long. We've seen a couple of games in pre-season and a couple of cup games. Difficult to tell off of those sample sizes, but for me looks a better goalkeeper than George Long. I don't think that's a huge compliment, but he is. It was a complete shift in the goalkeeping department over the summer. 3 new goalkeepers, wasn't it? It was a complete turnover. I like the look of Grimshaw. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. That feels about par. It wasn't the most exciting or impressive signing of the summer, but the most important thing is it feels an upgrade on the player that he was replacing. So that's a good thing. Next in the door was this man, Harry Darling, 26 years old on a free transfer. Free transfer, Harry Darling. They are two things that shouldn't go together, but they do. And Norwich fought off Wrexham, Sheffield United, Birmingham in order to get the signing of this man. And look, it's the third signing we're talking about here. And I think we'll struggle to find a better. Incredibly impressive, proven championship centre-back, can play with his feet, is great in the air, strong, experienced, disciplined, has it all. It's as close to a 10 as I think you're going to find in the Championship this summer. For me, it's one of the signings of the summer, definitely for Norwich City, maybe even in the division. Unbelievable bit of business from what I've seen so far. I am going to give this one a 9.5 out of 10. Yes, I'll go to decimal places. It's my channel. I can do what I want. Harry Darling, superb bit of business. for me, one of the first names on the team sheet. The fact he was a free transfer. Yes, he's probably on a fairly sizable sum in terms of wages, but pretty bloody good. Harry Darling, 9.5 out of 10. Next through the door was Louie Moulden. Again, another goalkeeper, 23 years of old, free transfer from Crystal Palace. He'll be third choice, essentially replaces Vicente Reyes. Will we even see Louie Moulden play? Not so sure. We'll give it a 6 out of 10. I don't know what more to say than that. But again, what Norwich City deem an upgrade on Vicente Reyes, who's now at Peterborough, and I don't think having a great season so far. So with that being said, it feels like in every position, first, second and third choice goalkeepers, it was an upgrade. Next through the door was this man, Jakov Medic. Interesting one this. Again, 26 years old. I said player profile probably more than any other words throughout the summer. But with Jakov Medic, once again, fits the player profile. In his prime, still deemed young, fairly cheap, came in at about the £2 million mark, and from an incredibly cherished and big European club in Ajax. Now, hadn't had the best time out on loan in the Bundesliga, and much like Vladan Kovacevic, who we'll get on to next, big player, had a really exciting young spell in their career, maybe gone off the boil slightly. We managed to pick them up cheap in order to try and reinvigorate their careers. With Jakov Medic, he's been basically the alongside Harry Darling, the main man in terms of centre-back pairings. Obviously, you've had Jose Cordoba in there as well, when we've tried to play 5 at the back, 3 at the back, however you want to see it. But Liam Manning clearly liked Jakov Medic. Now, he's big. He's very big. And I think with that comes a slightly slower turning circle than a Harry Darling or a Jose Cordoba. But I think particularly in that last game against Blackburn Rovers, we saw an improved performance. I think he knew his role a little bit more. And that's pleasing. I think there's a player in here with Jakov Medic. He's not been the best performer so far, but he's certainly not been the worst either. But at 26 years old, picking him up from Ajax for £2 million, he's an upgrade on what we had from last season. And I've said that a lot this video, haven't I? Upgrade on last season, which is ultimately what you're trying to do in the transfer market. I don't think this is the worst bit of business in the world. I'm going to give it a 7. It feels like it could go either way at this stage, but I've got high hopes for Jakov Medic, and I'll give him a 7. Next through the door was Vladan Kovacevic. Now, I think there was a bit of pressure on Ben Napper with this one. Angus Gunn's contract wasn't renewed. Angus Gunn was loved at Norwich City. He was a pretty reliable goalkeeper. I think some people's views on Angus Gunn have maybe been slightly tarnished just because of last season. But I think there was some parts around that kind of excused Angus's poor form. I don't think the contract negotiations were ever in a good place, and I think Angus kind of knew where his future lied, and it wasn't at Norwich City. So I think he maybe went off the boil slightly. But new number one coming in, that's always going to have pressure. And with Vladan Kovacevic, had a pretty big money move to Sporting Lisbon. Again, hadn't quite worked out for him, much like Jakov Medic, and it meant that we were able to pick him up on the cheap. Again, around the £2 million mark. I think it was about €2.5 million, something like that. And came in with pressure on his shoulders. Now, Big Mad Vlad is exactly that. He's big and he's mad. Clean sheet at Blackburn Rovers, big double save there, penalty save at Portsmouth. You could argue that Norwich City's 2 league away wins so far have been thanks to this man, ultimately winning us the games. And that is huge, and that goes under the radar, I think. We've raved about Josh Sargent all season, and rightly so. He has scored the goals that have won us the games. But in Vladan Kovacevic, you have a man that's kept them out at the other end. And I think the double save at Blackburn, the penalty save, and also, if you think back to the game at Fratton Park, I think it was at 1-0, or maybe 0-0, there was a big header at the back post, and he is there, and he is celebrating the saves like an absolute madman. And that has won us the games. That's the difference between us having points, and a decent chunk of points on the board, and not very many at all. There is a mistake in Vladan Kovacevic. I've got no doubt about that. I think there is a lob from the halfway line coming against Vladan Kovacevic. But I think most importantly, if we're being serious, he fits the style of football that Liam Manning is wanting to play. He starts from the back. He is the first point in the build-up play. And he's good with his feet. He can pull off big saves, and he's a character. And I think that kind of ticks all the boxes of what you want from a goalkeeper. Is he perfect? No, I don't think he is. But again, he's an upgrade, and I like him a lot. I'm going to give it an 8 in terms of signings. Next up, probably the one that made the most headlines over the summer. Matias Kvistgaarden. £6.9 million, 23 years old, incredibly highly rated, Danish, international, coming in from Brøndby. Now, this made the headlines because of the kind of the week leading up to the announcement. It looked like this man was going to Ligue 1, I think it was at the time, wasn't it? For about £14 million. And Norwich City were interested then, and I think Norwich City would have paid, probably not 14 million, but I think they would have gone to 10 plus. I think they would have probably gone to 12. And Lee Dunn and Ben Napper had a look through the contract and found that there was maybe a little release clause. That number was £6.9 million. That was an amount that they were more than happy to pay for. They activated the release clause. Matias Kvistgaarden wanted to come to Norwich City. The rest is history. Now, I don't think we've seen a whole lot of Matias Kvistgaarden so far. I think he wanted to be in the number 9. Well, that's certainly not happening until at least January because of Josh Sargent staying at the club. I think when we signed Kvistgaarden, there was probably an assumption that Sargent would be departing, but that didn't come about, thank goodness. So we're going to have to find what's the ideal role for Kvistgaarden. He's clearly talented from what we've seen so far. He's nippy, he's got a great first touch, he can get a shot away. Is it in the 10? Is it on the right wing? Time will tell. He's bound to be an exciting player. It's difficult to get too carried away at the moment just because of how little football we've seen from him. I still think there's a little bit of fitness to get him up to speed. But I'm excited about Kvistgaarden. I'm really excited about the potential of Sargent in the 9 and Kvistgaarden in the 10. I think that could really reap rewards. I'm going to give the signing a 7, maybe a 7.5, just because, it was a significant chunk of money and I'm still, yet to see too much from him. But a very exciting signing and hopefully good things will come. From Matias Kvistgaarden to Jeffrey Schlupp, free transfer. His previous club was Celtic, but he was a free agent. Left back. Now, I thought was coming in to be basically third choice left back behind Ben Grimshaw and Lucien Mahavo. Actually, he's gone on to start a couple of games. I think that will now change after the really good performance from Ben Grimshaw against Blackburn. And Mahavo's not been fit. I think they'll be battling it out. I think out of all of the summer signings, this was probably difficult to say worst because I think we knew the kind of profile of player we were getting here. A bit of experience, played loads of Premier League football, but very much in the twilight stage of his career. Not been overly impressed with him when he's played. Did get the assist for the Josh Sargent second goal at Blackburn. I think these types of players are important to have around the place, and clearly a good professional. Will he impact things too much at Norwich City this season? Probably not, but Liam Manning clearly deemed him a good player to have around. So did Ben Napper. I trust those guys. I'm going to give it a 5 just because I don't think he looks completely fit. But who knows? Come the end of the season when we've maybe got top 6 and we're looking back and going, well, Jeffrey Schlupp filled in well when the other 2 left backs were injured. Who knows? Jeffrey Schlupp, not the most inspiring. Experienced head. I've seen worse. Paparadu Diallo, another really exciting one. I think in terms of Ben Napper's excitement levels, this was the one he was most excited about. 21 years old, incredibly quick left winger, coming in from Metz. Again, there was a lot of hype around Diallo. Looked like he was going to Watford. We kind of swooped in and hijacked the deal. And as I say, there was a real excitement around this guy internally. And you can see why. He has started the season really well. That game against Watford, he was electric. We've actually got some merch. If you want some No Papa No Party merch, then feel free to get stuck into that. I think it's free shipping this weekend as well, actually. So the links will be in the description if you want a No Papa No Party shirt. Get stuck in. Look, I like this guy a lot. It's about time we found ourselves a winger, quick winger that will hit the byline and find the cross. It was the Sargent goal against Watford where he just dashed, didn't he? Won the ball back, hit the byline, nice little left-footed cross cut back, Sargent finishes. I think we'll see a lot of that this season. Again, look, still young, not the finished product, but his work rate, his speed, his final product in terms of crossing from what we've seen so far, really exciting. Fits the Manning mould beautifully. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. I really like the look of Paparadu Diallo. And I really like the look of this man as well, Mirko Topic, coming in for £3.5 million from the Portuguese divisions. A proper ball-winning terror in the middle of the pitch. No nonsense. We haven't had a midfielder like Mirko Topic since probably Ollie Skip. That kind of era, Alexander Tete. But I think about a bit more technical than both of those as well. Didn't have his best game against Middlesbrough. Where I think he was just trying to overwork it in the middle of the park. But I think if we can find a regular midfield partner for Mirko Topic, and I think that will be Kenny McLean when fit, I'm really excited about the potential with this lad. He's 24, again, feels very much in his prime, absolute athlete, breaks up play, lovely shield for the defence. And again, at £3.5 million, it feels like really good value. I think what Norwich have done well this summer is going into Portugal, going into France, going into the Netherlands, and being able to pick up players that maybe have fallen out of love a bit, but we'll rekindle them. We'll give them the TLC that they need and try and work them up again. Mirko Topic, great signing, 8 out of 10. Jovon Makama. Now, this is an interesting one. We were talking with Connor Southwell on my latest chat about how this works the other way. And let's say I was confused, as Connor was, as I think most people were, why Leeds didn't chuck the kitchen sink to try and get Josh Sargent in. And we said, well, it's because if you're a Premier League club and you sign a player from Norwich City or a club our size in our division, it doesn't look too sexy, does it? It doesn't look great to the fans. Oh, we've signed a striker from Norwich City, great. And I think Norwich have been able to get a really good deal here because we've signed him from Lincoln. No disrespect from Lincoln. It's a lovely city, lovely cathedral. But it's Lincoln, right? And we've been able to pick up a young, exciting, hungry, proven striker for £1 million. £1 million. That's brilliant. And I like the look of Makama. He's big, he's tall, he's strong, he's got a shot on him. He is a great option to have when you're 1-0 up, your back's against the wall, away from home, Sargent's absolutely all out. Who do you bring on? Who can you launch a ball into? Win some headers, hold it up, chest it, bring other players in. It's Jovon Makama. That's who you bring on. He's a different type of option to a Kvistgaarden, to a Sargent, to a Sienats. And I like that. He's a very different player and a very different profile to a Jordan Rhodes, but it reminds me a bit of that. Jordan Rhodes, by the way, happy retirement to him. What a brilliant career he's had. But Jordan Rhodes in 2018-19 scored 9 goals and got 1 assist and was a critical part of that squad. You need different options. And I think with Jovon Makama, you've got that. So for £1 million, it's hard to get too upset about that. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. I'm not too sure what to expect from him, but I think what we'll get is work rate, energy, and something different. And that ticks the boxes for me. And the final signing was this man, Pelle Mattsson. Probably spoke about him more than any other player on this list. He was in, he was out, he was shaking it all about. We got Mirko Topic. We said, thank goodness for that. Thank goodness for that. We got the man we wanted. We never wanted Mattsson. And then the Marcelino Nunes story happened. And we had to go back into the market. And we got him. We got our man from Silkeborg, Pelle Mattsson, who, by the way, I think out of any signing this summer, is the most delighted to be at Norwich City. We were told his whole family were incredibly emotional at the fact that he'd been purchased by Norwich City. They wanted him to be playing football at Norwich in the Championship. And he got his move. technical, slightly deeper lying, creative midfielder, but an energetic workhorse. A man that can pick a pass, technically gifted is what I've been told he's about. £3 million, 24 years old, a great option again in the middle of the park. And Manning has said on public profile, that his midfield mix he deems as perfect. And that's what softened the blow of the Marcelino Nunes move a bit, is because I think with Maatsen, he completes that package. He is a Liam Manning player. Manning wanted him all summer. They've been tracking him for a while. So look, he's not played a game. I think we'll see a lot of him this season with Wright and with McLean and with Topic. I think you've got a really nice mix there, and with Liam Gibbs as well. So I'll give it a 7. They wanted him and they got him and they like him. So now it's up to Maatsen to prove his worth. But I think with all of these players, we have now got a squad that all want to be here, that all want to be playing football for Norwich City. And that's a really important aspect. We don't want players that don't want to be here. That's crippling. That's so cancerous to a setup. It spreads. It's a bad thing. But with Maatsen and with Makama and with Topic and with Diallo and with Schlupp and with Kvistgaarden and with Kovacevic and with Medic and with Moulden and with Darling and with Grimshaw and with Wright, we've got 12 new signings there that want to be at Norwich City. And that feels really powerful. So there we have it. They are the 12 new signings for Norwich City. I think for me, signing of the summer, Harry Darling, the value, the player we got, the way we fought off competitors. I think he's my number 1. I think Paparadu Diallo is my number 2. And I think Vladan Kovacevic is my number 3. That's what I think in terms of my rankings. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Who do you think was the best signing of the summer? And who do you think was your 2 and 3? If you want to do all 12, feel free. But it's Friday night. You might be out on the Lakens. Thanks very much for watching. And I'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.